Alright guys, welcome back to the grand finals of this monthly cup. We have Lou 90 versus S of Dawn, and the winner here will take $1,500. Second place taking $1,000. We just had the third place match concluded. You can look at the brackets here. I win again, taking $100 as fourth place. Sweetie taking home $500, but also a $100 bounty from beating Imperia. Scorch, how do you feel this matchup's going to play out? Hello, Scorch? Oh, my bad. Hey, Scotch. Sorry, man. I was just chatting away, but I muted. I was muted, but everyone else could hear me apart from you. I'm sorry, man. So yeah, I was just talking about the prizes and what the players has currently achieved. We just took a look at that. For this matchup, Lou 90 versus S of Dawn. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Lou with plenty of experience, but S of Dawn has been performing very well ever since he joined the Faeria community.
Yeah, I kind of been making strides every single month. Started at least on the competitive side back in April, so pretty much right after 1.0 was fully released, and then qualified for the monthly cup, and then in July then made it past round one of the monthly cup, and then now a deep run through the monthly cup. So it's hard to not root for him continuing to build on that success in this type of a performance, especially with the results that he's had here. But Lou looked really strong in the semifinals match that we saw, and his second finals appearance definitely will be itching to get that first place finish after adding that to the second place that he finished the first time he was here.
Lou is kind of one of the players that's been with us for so long and had so much influence on the community. It's almost like he needs the first place, right? Just to say, look, he's won this month. He's won a monthly cup. He's one of the front runners for the competitive scene. He influences a lot in deck building through his stream. He has a very active YouTube channel where he shows off decks and ideas. And he's contributed a lot to this community and been a staple of our competitive scene, but never taken that first place. So, like you said, on the one side, S of Dawn, building up on this a short time career, doing very well. He's done very well on ladder. I've played against him tons. We've chatted a lot as well through my stream. But we also have Lou as well, who is a regular streamer and content maker, but also one of the strongest players in the scene.
Yeah, it definitely, you want to add that to your resume and be like, look, see,
I did it.
I can get there. I mean, even just getting to the finals is a huge accomplishment considering the amount of talent that is in each monthly cup. And then to see somebody like Yes of Dawn, a newer face to the community, really break through. It's really nice to see kind of the two ends of the spectrum both end up clashing here in the grand finals.
So the experience versus the underdog, and we know the underdog usually gets a lot of rooting, but Lou is much loved by this community. We're going to go straight into this match. Cappuccino, Scorch, enjoy the finals.
Oh man, what a finals. Lou 90 against S of Dawn. I think Lou is one of the top ladder ranked players at the moment as well, so certainly playing very strongly on ladder.
And Lou always seems to end up in a really good ladder position on top of all of the experimentation that he does with, just playing around with fun decks, always able to just still make them work. And we know how strong it looked in that semifinals running this red combat. He's starting on that. S of Dawn starting on a yellow rush, and Lou probably going to be like, all right, come get it. Like, I've been used to playing against the rushes so far with this combat deck.
Wow, S of Dawn actually throws away the Shaitan Demon, one of the cards that I think is probably the best opening hand card other than maybe Areli. So a bit of a surprise there. And Lou, with Horsemaster, not always the best start, but he can start setting up to collect at least turn one.
Yeah, Horsemaster is always really nice because you can start to turn the aggression against a rush archetype like we're seeing from S of Dawn. But you generally want to draw into that a few cards in. You want something like a Gift of Steel if you're starting with these underground cards, or Cypher's Wrath, a Ground Shaker to pick off the followers, or Demon Wrangler, or Monk, something like that. You want those type of cards, and then draw into your Horsemaster to switch the aggression a handful of cards into your deck.
Yeah, I think we'll just likely to see the Explorer Mountain Horsemaster into next turn a boss played. I'm trying to figure out what Lou could be thinking about this turn, whether it's Do I save the Explorer? Do I want the mountain next to my orb? It is a bomb slinger spot if he keeps it next to his orb. So that might be one of the considerations that Lou's going through right now.
He could also be considering going at the lands of S of Dawn, maybe even just set up the Horsemaster so you can deny whatever the first creature is, but you generally want something to follow up. You want something like a Cypher's Wrath, like a Ground Shaker, to be the extra point of damage that you might need in certain situations that would possibly punish you for playing the Horsemaster in that way. So that actually is what he's going for, is the counter rush.
Oh man, I have a bad feeling about this for Lou. Now, Red Combat, I would think, is a deck that's extremely favored just to hug your wall and just hold out the value against the Yellow Rush deck. By triple landing forward, you're giving up all of the advantages you have as a defending player. And maybe if your Brigands can hit face, you'll still get more value, but it's going to be extremely hard. If S of Dawn had Air Alley into a Wingate follower hit face, could be prayers. At the very least, S of Dawn can just double land and pass. Next turn, if he finds any haste unit, he can hit face and Wrangler it.
Yeah, that's a position using these underground cards where even if you're not collecting Faeria off the wells, you're still going to recover it through your creature combat. So you're able to usually control enough to outpace your opponent. And especially going for this Horsemaster play, I mean, S of Dawn could have just played the Demon Wrangler there, and Lou would have got really punished for it, but he doesn't go for that line.
S of Dawn might actually outcollect Lou in this matchup, being the Yellow Rush deck against the Red Combat deck. If S of Dawn on his next turn goes for the aggressive Desert for Airly, then the Desert at the well with the gift effect, Wind Soldier to trade, Lou's going to deny that somewhat, but the line is still available if S of Dawn wants to go for it.
Yeah, this is super interesting. Even just picking up the Mace Man now, it could be a defensive if you wanted to, but you play into that same situation of the Cypher's Wrath, the Ground Shaker. It's also interesting because that rush start could have been a bluff by Lou, although both players probably would have been spectating the streams and seeing what each other was playing as their opening decks. If S of Dawn didn't know what Lou was playing, that open with the lands way that Lou went for it could have been a bluff towards him playing a rush and then just reset with all his creatures.
Oh man, as S of Dawn, I'm looking at so many lines that look so favorable. Like, you could just Mountain at the Wall, or sorry, Desert at the Wall for now, play the Air Alley to get the aggressive Desert, and then just Maceman block, honestly. Maceman block seems very strong, unless the opponent has a Ground Shaker to get that remaining 1 damage in. It would require a Cypher's Wrath or something else like that.
Interesting positioning for the Airly. They're taking over his own tile just so we can get this hit in and get the Demon Wrangler. It seems quite greedy to go for it that way. I thought maybe the Airly would come down where the Demon Wrangler currently is and play the Wind Soldier back on his own top left well and clear the Horsemaster with the Wind Soldier, but Value's actually sacrificing it to get the Demon Wing instead of clearing the Horsemaster.
Yeah, this would be so scary if your opponent had, a Cypher's Wrath. He can Cypher's the 5/2, value trade into the 4/2, and then drop a Brigand, drop a Boss, drop anything. But with Lou actually trying to counter rush, it just looks so hard for Lou to get a winning position at the moment because he can't play the Bomb Slinger. He could go hit face, drop Brigand aggressively, and just hold out to defend. Maybe if he finds Firestorm, he can get the clear. That might be the call he's saying is, I'll try and go aggressive, he'll play out all of his creatures, and then I'll get the value Firestorm. But I'm in fear for Lou. I don't think this looks that great for him.
And he plays the boss defensively. That boss is going to pick up a bunch of value either on the combat of the other creatures or by denying the Demon Wing hitting face. Yeah, it still looks really awkward, but it's going to be a big swing back if it works out for Lou. Right now, it looks like he's a bit behind, sitting on 0 Faeria, sitting on a bit of awkward positioning of his creatures compared to what S of Dawn is doing. But if he's able to swing it back because of the combat recovery of this Faeria here, he's going to be in a really good position because he will have the clears on the creatures, and then he will have the aggressive creatures of his own.
Yeah, completely agree. The best collections for these combat creatures is actually the enemy face, just hitting it and gaining that Faeria. Um, oh, but if SF Dawn had choking here, it would be so good. Choking, Soul Drain. There's just so many lines that S could have. Even if S just had Prayer here, like, he's up 2 Faeria already just from collecting from the wells, whereas Lou doesn't have any of that Faeria gain.
I mean, that's a situation where it could be just knowing what your opponent played from having watched the stream cover that player, right? If Lou saw enough of the cards from SF Dawn to think that he doesn't have Choking Sands, then this is a great read and a great play to go for. If he does know that there's chokings possible, then yeah, it looks really awful in this type of situation. But like we were saying, Lou gonna get a bunch of recovery here of the Faeria. Firestorm is picked up. Is it good enough?
He can.
Because you're one short.
He can Firestorm if he uses either the boss to hit the 2-1, or if he just collects with the boss. You can make them out and just collect from the well, and then Firestorm after hitting with the Brigand to face. That Maceman still survives the hit in. What's the alternative line? You can hit the Air Elemental and then Bomb Slinger the 4/4. That might be the better line. So Horsemaster, Brigand, hit face. You start with that. You look at what options you have afterwards, and the option afterwards looks like you just trade into the Air Alley or the Wrangler and Bomb Slinger the 4/4. I think that's what I favor.
That's so rough there. If Lou had 1 extra Faeria or he had already been on the 3 mountains, he could have Firestormed first, and that would have allowed the underground boss to clear the Maceman afterwards. But going forward in this way, he is now ahead because the Maceman hitting puts him at 8, and he has 5, so he's going to put his opponent at 7. But you're a turn behind on the actual attacking of the face, so really depends on what SF Dawn goes for as the follow-up here, whether it's the Demon Wrangler to reset that Maceman to a 5/2, or the Air Elemental in behind. Really tough in this spot of what the best option is.
Yeah, if it was Lou's plan to set up that Firestorm value, it definitely worked out for him. I mean, this is a throwback to those other games where we saw multiple Firestorms in his hand as dead cards. Maybe he's saying, all right, I'm running a bunch of Firestorms. I should be able to outvalue if he plays like 3 haste units with the Firestorm. Now, for SF Dawn, though, let's look at his lines. Crystal Flower on the Brigand and just tap face for 4 looks like one of the better options to me.
I think you have to get that extra 4 damage to the face right now. I was kind of looking at a line where you develop the desert behind the Maceman, and then move it a step back, Crystal Flower, and then use the Demon Wrangler to sacrifice the Maceman. But I just don't think it's quite enough damage. I don't think you win the race that way. So yeah, even going for the Air Alley, I don't think is good enough. It's really tough here.
I think you have to make the desert behind the Maceman, play the flower, or yeah, the Crystal Flower on one of the prairies, eating the Brigand.
And you're going to slow down your opponent as much as you are trying to outrace them now.
Groundshaker picked up, but he doesn't have enough Faeria. Can't Bomb Slinger either. Now, +1 Cypher aggressively will set up lethal, because he'll hit face, put him to 9, have 8 damage. Oh, but he can't afford the Groundshaker on the following turn.
You're going to run into the same situation there. Gift of Steel now goes to a 2-turn lethal, but you're playing into possibly a Soul Drain or a Wind Soldier clearing off your Horsemaster. This is so tense for both players right now.
There's also a consideration of where you're going to hit the flower, because on your opponent's next turn it would be freed, but no. Just go for the gamble. You need Soul Drain, or you need Wind Soldier, or I'm just going to take the victory.
And now Wind Soldier not picked up actually means it will no longer do it. There is no desert line set up that will allow the Wind Soldier to clear off. It'll have to be a Soul Drain, and it is.
Okay, he finds the Soul Drain, and he can hit face for 4, or you can just Wrangler. So you hit face for 4, you Wrangler it. Is there a better line? He could just collect Faeria and wait, but I feel like you have to get the 4 damage in.
And the Demon Wrangler goes in a good enough position. It's going to collect next turn as well. I think you do have to go for the Demon Wrangler here.
Lou's going to 4 Faeria on his turn, so what can he do? Lou can value trade and Bomb Slinger, but SF Dawn not having...
enough.
Do you Groundshaker aggressively? Because you could just trade into the Demon Wing, drop the Groundshaker aggressively, and just hope to outrace like a follower hitting face.
Another Act Grinder picked up. I think you do go for the Groundshaker here. Groundshaker sets your opponent, if the Groundshaker survives, to hit to 2. That means they will need the haste in the right ways.
Follower would be lethal, or he can Wind Soldier Wrangler it, but that would set up Cypher's Wrath for lethal. I feel like you have to go for the draw. If you find your follower, you have lethal.
And if you don't, you can still wait another turn, because if Lou doesn't find a Flame Burst, it's not lethal for him on the next turn, and then SF Dawn still has 2 more draws. So this is a position where you have to draw and go for possibly a bit of a slow play if you don't find what you're looking for. Shaitan Demon is not it, cannot be played, otherwise it will kill him next turn. So this is, I believe, pass. I guess you could go for the Wind Soldier, but it doesn't make a difference whether you do it this turn or next turn.
Unless Flower is a consideration. If your opponent plays a Grimguard, do you need to Wind Soldier now so that next turn you could Follower plus Flower? Or can you do that regardless? I'm trying to think of any line where it would matter where you need that +1 Faeria now. Perhaps it just doesn't matter in this situation.
Still going to have enough to play any haste creature that comes out next turn. It is a rush, so you're not considering something like Outland Ranger for the Campfire for the extra 1 Faeria.
Yeah, I don't think it makes...
go for it, though.
I don't think it makes a difference, but it might cause Lou... Actually, if anything, this just tells Lou he has to draw for lethal now.
Cypher's Wrath picked up, and it would have been lethal if SF Dawn had played any more creatures. The Cypher's Wrath playing around it in a perfect way, and that is going to be the game if he can find any haste creature at all.
Not enough? Can he find Monk, Follower, Flash Salmon if he's running it? No! There is
Air
Lou
Elemental
going to be
will not
taking
do
it! 8-8 Zealous, very strong value play, but not when you're on 2 life with Groundshaker and Axe Grinder staring you down.
Oh my goodness, what a game to start off with. Unbelievable. I mean, we kind of questioned at the start of Lou going for the counter race, but able to find a really big value Firestorm in the mid game, and then both players really just fighting for who could get the top deck and close out the game in the right position, and Lou able to take it with a big aggressive Groundshaker.
Yeah, and that was a game where SF Dawn played 0 prayers. Could you imagine if SF Dawn had more Faeria to work with? If he had managed to find a Monk into prayer, had more resources? I'm doubtful of Lou's rushing strategy, but he made it work.
But it almost seems like that yellow rush that SF Dawn was playing was more kind of, not mid-range heavy, but mid-range creature heavy. You're running like the Air Elementals, you're running the Mace Men, and you're maybe not running quite as much of the Follower, Monk, Wind Soldier, because I think there was only 1 Wind Soldier, maybe 2, but as haste units go in a yellow rush, which is what it's known for, there was not that many played.
Yeah, I could make the assumption that maybe there's no monks, but I would still imagine there's 3 Wind Soldiers and 3 Followers, just because those cards, like, you need the Followers for the Wranglers and you need the Wind Soldiers just as one of the most efficient ways of dealing with creatures.
Yeah, definitely. We do see SF Dawn go to this blue-green that we've been really talking about all day. Did have some Frog Tossers in hand, but tossed those back into the deck, and the double Water Elemental start's going to be really nice to accelerate, but that Sky Whale is going to be dead for quite a while in his hand.
Now, Lou with Bomb Slingers in his deck, I imagine we're going to see the Explore Mountain Axe Grinder on the left side of the orb.
This is definitely a style that you want to fight towards your opponent. That's really what Red Combat is about. It's a combat deck. So going towards the right side really doesn't make sense for Lou here. You want to push towards your opponent's creatures, because even if you're clearing and just trading back and forth, you're gaining more value through your combat effects. So that's definitely the way that we should expect to see him go.
One of the other concerns is if he's thinking that, okay, the opponent might be running lots of buffs and stuff. Actually, buffs wouldn't matter. Maybe if you put your opponent on running libraries, you want to just double land this turn, double land next turn, and explore Mountain at the Well to get the Axe Grinder spot. It could be a consideration just to land its cell with neutrals first.
Yeah, definitely something that he could go for. Or if he's just reading into the fact of it being a blue-green deck, and it is so greedy like we were talking about in the earlier games, Maybe he just goes for a more aggressive line and plays it more of an aggro like he did last game, but we do see him actually go to the right, which I'm very surprised by.
Now, I guess we did see at least 2 Firestorms, speaking of which it's now picked up. So maybe Lou is saying, okay, I'll go up the opposite side, and if you branch out with tons of elementals, tons of lore thieves and stuff, I'll just get Firestorm value, and that way I don't have to be fighting your creatures. But I'd still imagine you want to go to the same side because you're running Horsemaster, because you're running Gift of Steel and your Brigands and stuff, you want them to fight.
Even just in terms of Bombslinger as well, you need the mountains in the right positions for that to line up properly to deal that damage, because otherwise your opponent's going to Frog Tosser from the other side of the board at you, and you can't respond with Bombslingers at them.
Yeah, looking at this situation, I think SF Dawn has a much better grasp on the board with being able to double collect that Water Alley. Lou without a way of taking it off the board.
Feed the Forest now picked up, could go for the life buff onto the Octopus, make it a 3/7, and then feed that if he wanted to. Just really needs something else to play, and maybe Shifting Octopus is good enough just to come down as a 5/5. Probably not like a 5/3 jump. Maybe 3/5 jump would be good enough, because then you can chase your opponent's creatures around the board with that extra movement.
I think against red, you rarely want to choose something other than the life option, just because they have, the AoE with Firestorms, they have the Ground Shakers, and they can find clears with like Flame Burst, Cypher's Wrath. So I think Shifting Octopus almost always has to be double life.
Is it something that you're looking to feed on this turn, or do you think you can either wait a turn with it, or even just wait for a Living Willow with that feed?
I think you want to get on the board now, because you can sort of expect once he finds Ground Shaker, Cypher's Wrath, once he finds another Flame Burst, he's going to stop me from double collecting. And I think that double collection is worth playing into Firestorm value, especially because the Firestorm doesn't actually deny the 3/7 from double collecting. Whereas if Blue had gone up the same side, Bomb Slinger, Firestorm, maybe things would have been slightly different.
Yeah, that's definitely a position where if we were looking at both of the players playing on the same side, could have been a really good clear for Lou, but he is still just pushing up as fast as possible. 5 damage next turn with the Ground Shaker unless it somehow gets blocked, and then possibly 9 the following turn with the Axe Grinder getting into the right position. So definitely looking to end the game as fast as possible, like we were talking about off the start of the game.
Now, this has to be a consideration for SF Dawn. He can feed on the 3/6 Octopus, play the Water Alley, then make the final land for the Skywell and swallow the 2/3 Brigand and try and go into a race scenario. And if SF Dawn has buffs for the Skywell to keep it alive, he might be able to win in that race.
Fugaro now picked up, was it good enough, or I should say, is it good enough to consider going for the Urn there and just continue to draw cards, or is the Skywell just better?
The Crystal Dragon also would have been an option there, just because in this state of the board, the 6/6 to trade into the Ground Shaker looks really tempting.
If it is Skywell coming down, Lou is really going to be looking for something else to go along with his Firestorm here. Firestorm looks really nice to pick off both of the Water Ellies, but you need something else on top of that to clear off the Skywell. Surprisingly enough, goes for clearing off the Ground Shaker instead of the Brigand, like you were talking about.
Yeah, so he's going to allow Lou to actually keep double collecting. And the thing about this is Lou has no fear of that Skywell. After you play the Firestorm, it's not collecting. It'll be a 6/3. It can't ever go face because it plays into Bomb Slinger. So from this position, Lou looks like he's very favored.
Yeah, could even go double prairies from right in front of his orb and then over towards the Skywhale, because that means you maybe force it to move back away from your orb instead of up towards it, just to play around that Bomb Slinger again. Looks like it should be Firestorm just because it clears the elementals so easily as well, but surprised by the Axe Grinder there instead of going for some more prairies out and set up a better Bomb Slinger position, or set up, I should say, a guaranteed Bomb Slinger position next turn.
Yeah, I think I was actually a bit more fond as well of just actually +1 Faeria. Just because I feel like it gives you more options going into your later turns. Fugaro picked up means he can play it, choose the Urn of Gaebria, and then feed the Forest on it if he wants to.
Did at least go for the Urn. We'll see if he follows that up with the feed as well. Another feed picked up, so definitely going to go for the feed because now he has the Frog Tosser as well. That's a really nice pickup to clear off the Brigand if he chooses to go for that.
Now, SF Dawn can actually deny... He can... Oh, no, you can't deny the Bomb Slinger, sorry. You can if the Frog Tosser summons the Toad on the prairie. So you Frog Toss to the 2/3. If it spawns on the prairie, you can double land and then hit face from in front of his orb, and the Toad will be blocking any Bomb Slinger lines. This is it. Oh!
Spawns on the opposite side.
A bit unfortunate with the spawn. He can't deny Bomb Slinger now. The other fear as well is, with Lou running multiple Firestorms, this just set up a very valuable Firestorm, so maybe you think about not creating any lands underneath the Skywhale.
And maybe even just moving the Skywhale directly into the middle of the board?
Or even just up one into that blank spot.
Yeah, that's another one. Lou actually can't get lands over there as well to save the Ground Shaker, so... Actually, is that worth... Oh no, because you'd give the... I was going to say, is that worth moving to that position and then feed the forest, but...
I just realized that if Lou... Oh, no, he would have to make a land under it that turn, okay. So he wouldn't be able to step onto one of the enemy lands. It would actually just die. But, yeah, that said, he goes for the forest line, and Lou with Bomb Slinger means he can kill that off. Now, the interesting thing is, it actually doesn't get a land to stand on. So if he Bomb Slingers it, he's going to lose the Ground Shaker.
Is there a way, because that Gift of Steel is now picked up, that Lou wins the race? If he deals 7 this turn, he'll put his opponent to 12, have a 7/3 Axe Grinder, and then play the other Axe Grinder, which will have 5 attack. That would be a 2-turn lethal, and your opponent is currently 2 damage away from killing you. Having just seen a Frog Tosser, is it a consideration of going for the race?
I think you have to draw. I think it's just so important to draw. If you find Cypher's Wrath, if you find Firestorm, you can at the very least Bomb Slinger the 2/2. And you can also play another Axe Grinder aggressive and step back with the other one. I think you're forced to draw here.
The Gift of Steel comes down, and Lou is going to go for the race. Sets up a 2-turn lethal. We see in the hand ES of Dawn has this other Frog Tosser, so he will be able to deny the second, I guess even deny the 7/3 Axe Grinder instead, but Lou going for the gamble play of setting up a 2-turn lethal.
ES of Dawn can full clear, right? He can Stalker the 5/4, finish it off with the 2/2 and Frog Tosser, because he can feed to gain a Faeria.
He can also just jump, when the frog jumps back, it'll gain the extra 1 that he needs.
Yeah.
Oh no, and then +1 to 8.
Yeah, Toad collect, +1, Toad and Stalker kill a 5/4, and you Frog Tosser the 7/3. Lets you full clear, you can hit him for 10. Looked really strong there. Actually a bit of a surprise he didn't go for that. He can still look for lethal though. If he is running guidance, if he is running any type of a buff, he can still hit face with the Toad, feed the Toad.
Still is a consider. Even to go for Frog Tosser attack to the orb and then feed the Frog Tosser.
So
He's going to
Lou
clear off
has
the 7/3, but
Lou has a chance for lethal. If he finds Gift and Flame Burst with the draw, he has it. But that is
Gunslinger will not
going to
do
be
it.
enough.
And Underground Boss will not do it. Could have been another Firestorm there. Off the top would have allowed him to survive as well, but this situation won't be enough, and ES of Dawn evens up the series.
Yeah, and it has to be a thought now of, is Lou going up the opposite side? Is that going to put him on tilt that he didn't go up the same side with the Bomb Slingers? But to be fair, it was close to having the chance of winning there, going up the opposite side.
Yeah, a big thing as well, once that Octopus was picked up, I think if Lou had gone to the same side, ES of Dawn would have switched and gone to the other side. He would have been able to set up his creatures over there as well, and it probably ends up playing not exactly the same, but pretty similar. And I think Lou went for a very good decision in the race there, trying to get his damage in as quick as possible. And Deepwood Stalkers feed the forest in Lou's hand. Looks like we're going to have a mirror match.
Yeah, here's the blue-green mirror. Now, Stalker, a card you definitely want against yellow decks, not so much against red. I imagine we'll see the full mull out of Lou. Unless he's making the judgment in this matchup, he wants to keep it just to play it as a 2/4. But no, there's the mulligan.
And gets very heavy land requirement cards with no ramp towards them. This is going to be quite awkward unless Lou is able to get some really nice draws in the first couple turns.
Yeah, I suspect we're going to see a lot of lights made this game very fast.
Living Willow picked up, so SF Dawn with a couple creatures he's able to get out early onto the board. Probably going to go for that Water Elemental first and then follow up with that Living Willow. If he's able to find a Feed the Forest, SF Dawn looks like he's going to be in a great position for this game, but that really depends on if Lou's able to find a creature and keep up in terms of both creature collection and land ramp.
Yeah, it's also a decision of SF Dawn whether he wants to go to both sides or just push up one side. Now, pushing up one side, I think the tree deck's normally favored because you don't have just enough power to push in. Those flowers come down and they eat your creature that you buff up. And so I think normally you want to go to both sides, but maybe SF Dawn not with full knowledge of the matchup.
Yeah, and we are still talking about a matchup of a deck that is less than a month old, really. So these players, they may be experienced in playing the deck, but maybe not in every single matchup. So you definitely need to, play out whatever you think is best, and it may not be what ends up being optimal by the end of the game, but it is just the way that you know how to play it so far.
Lou so desperately wants Earthcraft to be able to get out those Frog Tossers, get out that flower, even get towards his Fedoro.
I'm actually very surprised because of the cards that he's got in his hand that he went for a forest there, and he's actually building towards Frog Tosser or anything else that he picks up instead of just lake after lake to get towards the Forbidden Library. There's an Earthcraft, so that'll start.
Yeah, huge pickup there, and oh, another Earthcraft. This is it. Wait, he made a forest. I guess you have to make the second forest eventually so that you can play the Frog Tosser, but normally you look for the wood elementals to make the forest, and you use the Earthcrafts exclusively for lakes so that you can play your libraries. And Lou actually getting massively punished here. He could have played both libraries if he had Earthcraft to lake instead.
I mean, this is a position where he can get a Frog Tosser down this turn, clear off one of the Water Ellies, and get the Frog to switch over the other side. He'll have a creature on both sides of the board, even play the Shifting Octopus as well.
It seems like going for double library there just would have been so much better, though.
Boy, I was thinking Lou might have gone for Crystal Dragon there. Now up to 6 lands as well, so that Earthcraft into Earthcraft really reset the board nice for Lou. He's caught up in terms of the land ramp and now picks up the tree as well. Yeah, I'm very surprised he's not going for a Frog Tosser, but I guess it's just because the Frog dies so easily to the other Water Elemental on that side of the board.
Yeah, I think he's realizing that even if he Frog Tossers the enemy side of the board, it's going to be double collecting because there's the Water Alley. Flower's not enough. He would need both Frog Tosser and Flower to deny collections. So he himself has to play around, okay, what if my opponent has Stalker Tosser? What if they have Double Tosser? I have to get as much onto the board as possible.
Yeah, and now Double Tosser picked up.
It might be a bit too late for Lou, though, not developing the double library last turn.
He will be able to get them down next turn, and then it's really a consideration of if it's enough at that stage. There's 10 damage possible, just a little shy to full clear here from SF Dawn, but...
I guess you just double Frog Tosser the 3/3.
That looks like that's at least the one he's targeting for now. We'll see if he goes for it with the other one here, but I definitely would expect that he's going to go for it now that he's hit it at least once.
The other consideration, now that you've stopped the 3/3 from double collecting, is what if you just Stalker the 3/5, Stalker the 3/3 twice?
It just clumps everything together. I think you definitely want to have if the Stalkers don't have a great use early in the game, you want to keep them until you get your tree down later in the game. That's probably what the consideration was. Deepwood Stalker is a great pickup here for Lou because that allows him to clear both of the frogs on the left side here, and then play his Forbidden Libraries if he chooses to go for those.
Yes.
And then we're probably just going to see some Stalker back and forth of dealing the 2 damage and having the 2 damage remain.
Blue's on 6 lands this turn. He hasn't played any wood elementals, but he's played both Earthcraft. He'll go up to 7 lands, develops both libraries. He would need to find potentially 2 wood ellies and then make a special land with the wheel and then play the tree.
It's so close right now for what he wants to do here. He's going to go for the Stalker like I was talking about. It has to play another lake, I think, and get the libraries down this turn. It's just, are they in a good enough position? I guess the 1 goes between the wells because Fugaro has jump. You don't really mind it. And the other one could go on that Explore space, I guess. Or it could just play a Frog Tosser here, but I don't see that happening. I think the best is going for Forbidden Libraries at this stage.
The other thing is we haven't seen Lore Thieves out of Lou yet, if he's running them. If Lou has multiple Lore Thieves, you don't want to block the Lore Thieves from double collecting, so for that reason you wouldn't want a library between the wells. But he might just be forced into this line.
And this does leave him with a good chunk of Faeria as well. Having that 3 Faeria buffer for next turn just gives you so many options, especially if both libraries survive.
As SF Dawn, you have to be looking at this and saying, okay, my opponent is playing a Tree of Life deck. He's just played 2 libraries. I have to either set up a 2-turn clock, or I have to try and deny him from being able to afford Tree of Everlife. And I don't know if there's even a way for him to deny that. If he played Fugaro, found Frog Tosser with Urn, can he Frog Tosser and Stalker? No, he would be 1 shy.
And the Urn does come down. What is the draw? Willow into Wood Elemental is not going to do it. Living Willow looked like a good one right off the start, because then if you got a Feed the Forest, it would have been a really nice combo, but that now coming down, you still, I think, have to go for the Deepwood Stalker to lose Deepwood Stalker, or is it more valuable to double Stalker Fugaro?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's actually better for the double Stalker on Fugaro, because it's so important to deny every point of Faeria from Lou.
It looks like he's going to kill the Stalker now that he's already played the Wood Elemental, just doesn't have the Faeria left to do everything else. 7 damage to face this turn, down to 13. It's going to be very close next turn because of these libraries. There's a Lore Thief picked up, so that's going to be pretty big.
Whoa, Lou.
I don't think there's a way to draw enough ramp and get to the tree this turn, is there?
If he found Willow Feed into Earthcraft, or into another Wood Ellie feed, he definitely has to find feed in order to come back into this, I think.
Another Willow, another Lore Thief.
You can't even draw with the wheel now because you overdraw. Him not finding... Oh, Lou not finding the feed to the forest is so detrimental. All 3 buried.
And I think now you don't have enough Faeria no matter what happens. Because even with Willow Feed, even into another... Well, it would have to be into another Willow Feed. And that means that you have to draw exactly 2 feeds. And I don't think you can draw then into any more ramp to get to your tree.
Yeah, you have to make a special land this turn so that you can tree on a following turn. But what's Lou's life total? He's taking 4 damage on his next production, which means if S of Dawn deals 5 damage, that's actually lethal. What is the line for Lou? You can trade into the 3/3, drop a Willow, but that's not good enough.
I wonder if the line at the start of the turn was to actually play around not drawing the right cards. And that sounds really bad because you always want to expect that you're going to draw the right cards to be able to combo the way that you're hoping to. But if Lou thought that he wasn't going to draw into the ramp or into the feeds, there was probably some different lines that he could have gone for in terms of setting up the taunts of the Willow, of the Wood Ellie, but maybe then you don't draw into those. So that was really difficult in that spot of just hoping that you find the right cards.
Yeah, it was definitely something that there's two factors to it. With the lore thieves and the feeds, you have to play immediately if you're going to go for that line, because once you start doing all that cycling, because of all the animations and having to play all of those cards, like the amount of cards you have to go through, it can be really time consuming. So
Yep.
if you rope and then you start doing your line once the rope starts, it's just too late by then to get it all off. So I think he just felt like in a rush, okay, let's just go for it. And maybe a bit of a mistake there, as getting pretty unlucky, I think, not to find the feed, but was a chance for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big swing in the game as well because SF Dawn had such a good start with his land ramp and then getting really good frog tossers into the Deepwood Stalkers just to control the board from afar. And Lou ramped through Earthcrafts, which, yes, puts land onto the board, but doesn't put creatures onto the board. So, yes, SF Dawn able to take the game there, and now into match point. Lou bringing out a yellow rush against this deck should be a pretty good matchup, and I'm surprised that he went for the mirror match now, actually.
Yeah, I think he was thinking the library with the tree should be favored in the ramp mirror, just because if you have a better early start, you can actually SF Dawn actually with Tree of Everlife as well, with that whale. So it's a bit of a surprise that you're running Water Ellie, whale, and tree. A lot less targets to get buffed, but I think Lou with a control variant of yellow, or a tempo variant rather.
Yeah, and going for the desert off the start, very interesting from Lou because he could have had Mace Man right in front of that water elemental to start with here. Looks like it's, I mean, now the way that Lou's playing it out, it looks to me like he's playing more of like a yellow tempo almost because he's playing so slow.
Yeah, this looks like yellow tempo with the flash wind, with the choking. It's more a sign of tempo to me. Chooses to go for the Maceman, which makes sense. You don't want the demon to be dealing 2 damage unless you have the training. But he ends up going for the demon. It plays around better if the Water Ellie gets embraced, goes to 7 life. It allows Soul Drain to finish it off if you get that hit in.
Yeah, but another elemental picked up this time. The wood elemental going to be really nice up in the top left. If Esadon chooses to play it there, it's going to develop another land. I don't think we'll see the water elemental move at all. Just because then you put it within range of a movement trick and the Shaitan Demon getting really good value on it. SF Dawn is perfectly fine with this demon existing just because it does start to burn down Lou's life.
I'm actually considering whether the forest should have been created in front of SF Dawn's orb, and the Water Ellie just jumps onto that land. Because then if any removal comes on the 3-4, he can then just collect on the left side.
Yeah, could have decided to switch sides if he wanted. Does go for this instead. An Earthcraft picked up. Still really nice ramp coming out from SF Dawn. I think want a creature more than ramp in that situation, just because most of your creatures are elementals, or even an octopus there, having just seen a Choking Sands. A 3/7 octopus on the far side seems so safe.
Yeah, and SF Dawn now able to +1 Faeria into the Water Ellie. Going to set up triple collecting, but we can see Lou has the movement trick.
Yeah, but even just the double collecting is so important onto the far side there. Lou does have the possibility to go for Prairie straight up and something like the Fanatic to shift the demon aggressively. Just depends on how aggressive he wants to be of saving his other creatures this turn or trying to get that Mace Man set up to contest the Water Ellie on the left for the next turn.
With the Flashwind in hand, it has to be tempting to set up that Maceman as you were talking, to get that trade onto the Water Ellie.
Could have even been a position where you just play the Fanatic directly in front of your orb instead of off to the right as a collector here, but I think just knowing that Frog Tossers and Stalkers exist in this enough playing the Fanatic over there.
6 special lands, that would get him up to 8. But doesn't have the Faeria to play any Skywells. He'll have to be looking at those for the next few turns. It is a question of, do you play the Wood Elemental this turn, or do you give up collecting? You could go for the draw instead. If you find Frog Tosser, it's just so good. on that 3/2.
And the other thing with it is, like you were saying, with the lands here, he's on 6. If he plays the Wood Ellie, he can go to 8 this turn, and then 9 the following turn, save Faeria, and then 10 the next turn and get your Tree of Life out really early in the game. It's just whether you think you can have it in a defendable position at that stage, if it's something you want to go for, and whether you think you'll have creatures in hand to benefit from the buff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing to point out, is that SF Dawn actually doesn't have any green creatures in hand other than that Wood Elemental, which he would need to land ramp to play the tree. So he'll have to be looking to find Stalkers or Willows, potentially.
Yeah, even the Frog Tossers, talking about how good it is right now to clear off the 3/2, it looks even better once it picks up the buff. I'm wondering if, just because we haven't seen the full development of this deck, it hasn't been around that long, with the Frog Tossers and Stalkers being so important to the deck, if we'll see something like Tiki Totem start to be played, even just a 1 of, because then you get to go to a 5/5, which is just that much better than a 4/4 of the Frog Tosser, or a 3/5 of the Deepwood Stalker. Something that could be a very interesting development as this deck continues to shape in the month to come.
Yeah, definitely, especially because like Wood Elemental becoming a 4/5, having that 4 power is such an important spike. Water Elementals being a 4/4, you've seen how strong Maceman is. Water Ellie's a jumping Maceman. I mean, even with Stalker's 3/5s, like, yeah, there's a lot of reason to be running Tiki Totems if you can manage to spend the initial 3 Faeria.
Yeah, and even the kind of the style like I Win Again was playing, where it is that more mid-rangey style, the totem would fit really nicely into that style as well if you're playing a more creature-focused rather than the land ramp-focused. But again, it'll be something that we'll have to see if it ever develops, just because this deck still is so new to the meta. It looks like Lou should go for the clear. Has that flash win like we were talking about. Use the Mace Man to step over and clear the Water Ellie. You're just trying to reset a little bit, and you're okay with it even dying to the Wood Ellie on this side, just because it's going to take away your opponent's only creature as well. Would have been really nice for Lou if he could have got another aggressive Desert here and had the second Shaitan Demon as a follow-up. Should jump the Fanatic and, yeah, try to push damage next turn.
Stalker picked up's going to be fantastic. The hand of Lou will be a nice way of finishing off that Stalker.
Yeah, really nice kind of punch counter punch right now. It could be a situation where you could clear the Mace Man instead and keep your Wood Ellie protected. It just depends on how greedy you think that is versus having the Stalker survive at a 2/1.
You could go for the next step of greed and just +1 Faeria, play the Skywell to eat the Maceman, and just hope to race against the Demon, because the Demon will be dealing 2 damage each turn to Lou.
I'm actually surprised there that SF Dawn went for the trade, because he could have not traded in that situation and forced Lou to make the land, so he would have had to trade with the Maceman into the Wood Ellie, but...
The issue here, though, is Lou can't actually set up lethal. If he Soul Drains the 2/1, drops a Demon, hits face for 5, you have 10 damage next turn. SF Dawn just makes a special land, passes. On the following turn, SF Dawn can play the Tree of Everlife, and then Lou's just going to die to the self-damage of the Demons.
Yeah, he's going to need...
What would it be? Wind Soldier?
Wind Soldier, draw Wind Soldier next turn, because he has the other Soul Drain in hand.
This is going to be incredibly close. Lou needs exactly that, right? But if SF Dawn does manage to get the Tree of Everlife, SF Dawn still needs creatures to get hit by it, right? Yes, it's going to save him, but if Lou finds instead Training, Flashwind finds a way to kill it with like a Wind Soldier, there's ways that Lou can still manage to deal with the Tree of Everlife and still win this game, but it's going to be really difficult taking 4 damage a turn from those Demons.
Yeah, the other line here is going for the Skywhale. SF Dawn could +1 Skywhale, I guess the 5/4, and then Demon ticks down to 11. Skywhale hits for 6. Maybe you can race that way with the Caretaker now in hand for the buff. But I think it just looks better to save for the tree.
Yeah, tree looks so tempting to me.
You can put it in a protected enough position between the wells. You force Lou to have to create lands instead of drawing, something along those lines. Is going to go for the Sky Whale. Very interesting decision here.
So he's got Tiki Caretaker, right? He's saying, all right, I'll 8 you next turn. You'll have taken 2. There's the last nightmare. But is it even good enough? Because Lou's creature is going to come out of that, and you'll be taking 4 damage a turn still.
You have to last nightmare, though.
Yeah,
there is no other option. You have to take the extra 2 from the demon rather than take the 6 from the Sky Whale. There was no contest there, but this is a position now. You're in exactly the same position.
Yes, you can +1 this turn and special land next turn, and then play the tree. So it'll still work out.
You're in exactly the same position, and you're in a worse board state, because now the tree can only go really in between the 2 demons, and that means maybe just a movement trick gets it there instead of needing something like training or 2 movement tricks to allow one of these demons to clear off the tree, instead of what would have been tree this turn in a protected position between the wells and have both demons very far away from it.
We might just see Lou have to actually soul drain his demon next turn, because he's going to go to 7 life, which means a Ninja Toad would be lethal. Ninja Toad would hit for 3, he'd pass, and then Lou would take another 4 damage.
Kaleem's training is found. Another movement trick wouldn't be quite enough here. Mace Man found is still not enough. But Kaleem's training now is an extra little bit of damage towards killing off the tree. I just don't see a protected enough position for the tree now. Just because the Sky Whale basically gave Lou the movement for the demon to get over.
But is Lou forced to soul drain the 5/1, or is he just going to soul drain the 5/4? He could opt not to soul drain this turn. It would be greedy, but he could go for it. Ninja Toad is the only definite lethal there.
And it would have to be off the top. There is no good enough lake position right now for a Ninja Toad to hit the orb. Extra 5. So there is a guaranteed lethal next turn. Octopus will not do it for Essadon. You have to +1 tree, but I just don't see a position where it's a good enough play. I think this is the game to Lou.
I don't see a spot to put it. This actually looks like game. One option you could do is shifting Octopus as a taunt, a 3/5 taunt beside the Maceman. No, you still die because the demon hits you for 5.
Yeah, the demon hits or the Mace Man hits, and we can see the Kaleem's training. The only other option would be to taunt the demon, but then you don't have enough damage for the self-burn to kill him.
If you draw into Frog Tosser the demon, you technically live, because you only see 4 damage from Lou. Stalker as well would be another way to technically live on board. Though if you were draw for Stalker, it almost seems better to tree then, because if the opponent doesn't have the cards, you'd rather have played tree, I think.
I just don't see a way, just because of the way the Sky Whale ended up playing out. I think it's so tough in that position, but I think Essadon was just better saving for the tree 100% just because of creature positioning on the board. I don't think there was a way that Lou could have hit it in the right positions. He has since picked up the Kaleem's training, so he probably could have maneuvered it, but the Manta Rider picked up, and that will be game.
Oh, Lou the BM making me a little bit nervous, but he sees the line.
And there it is, Lou able to clear off the tree. I think the second time that we've seen the tree die today. But yeah, able to very nicely pick up the win after really debate between us of what the best way to go for there from S of Dawn, and tied up 2-2, and we take the grand finals into guaranteed match point, game number 5.
Yeah, game 5 between the 2 finalists. Exactly what we wanted to see. Let's see what their third decks are.
And Lou running this yellow rush, or maybe more of a yellow control style, tempo style of deck. we see the red coming out from S of Dawn. So interestingly enough, we had the series start with red versus yellow rush. And then the blue-green mirror match for game 3, and now we reverse for the yellow rush versus red to close it out. So both players bringing very similar lineups, showing off, what we thought was going to be one of the stronger lineups for the tournament.
Yeah, I think in terms of Lou's deck, though, with the Charger, now that we can see it, it is more of a tempo deck rather than the rush, but it is very aggressive in nature with those Flash Winds, the Fanatics, to hunt down the enemy creatures. And this is a matchup where I think it's ultimately going to come down to when Lou can find the Choking Sand to deal with the bosses, because we saw that Lou was running Choking Sands.
Yeah, this matchup is very dependent on who finds the clears in the right spots, because later on in the game, Mace Man, Windstorm Chargers are going to be very easily cleared by Bomb Slingers, but something like the Axe Grinder could be easily cleared by a Wind Soldier. So it just depends on if you have the card that you need to clear at the right time, or if your opponent does, because both of these decks just want to continue to clear each other's creatures.
Yeah, as Lou, you're very happy with the Charger. You just Desert drop the Charger. You can accomplish your third Desert on the following turn, and then you can draw every turn looking for those Manta Riders, looking for training, looking for map-wide mobility. But S of Dawn, with an interesting tech choice of his own, he's running Firebomb to try and shut down these 4/4s, shut down the Chargers, and it's actually going to come out pretty big here. It's just a question of, do you build to the same side or keep pushing up against your opponent?
It's also tough in that spot. You could have played it a little greedier and just gone for the underground boss, maybe switched sides and set up developing creatures on both sides of the board. But the Firebomb, so nice in that spot.
Yeah, and this is where Lou right now has to be thinking, okay, I need to find my Wind Soldiers to get the value trade there. I need to find my even Choking eventually for those higher life creatures. Soul Drain's going to be nice here.
Perfect. Soul Drain's really nice to pick off the Horsemaster. Wind Soldier can't do it. Oh,
Training
now picked up. I think this is where you just go for the orb.
I don't think you go face, just because that lets Bomb Slinger be a card, and you don't want to use the Flash Wind preemptively to pull back. I think you want to save it. But it could be a consideration to go face, but you're so worried about Bomb Slinger if you do that. You do kind of want to develop the Fanatic, though.
I guess it is in a good enough. Having the training on the Mace Man, it's still fine to leave it. You're going to double collect again next turn, so you don't need the Fanatic down as that second creature. We are going to see. It'll be interesting if S of Dawn goes for the orb now, because he could play a mountain like he's currently hovering, Horsemaster the Axe Grinder to the orb, and then play an underground boss right in behind it.
Yeah, it looks like a very strong line if he goes for the boss. Now, we do see Lou with the Fanatic and Flashman means he can value trade into that boss with the Maceman. If he finds something like a Wind Soldier, it would also be huge to go with it, but Fanatic lines up even well against the 4/3.
Yeah, that's actually a situation where Fanatic would have been really nice to have developed last turn, because he would have really good trades this turn and would triple collect in the process, set up the Charger right in behind. I think it's a position where you have to draw.
I mean, Lou might be looking at hit face for 5, Flashman onto the Prairie, then Desert to drop the Colossus. You've hit face for 5, put him on 15, and you've got 12 damage at the face, but I mean, I would play for value instead and just take the trade on the boss, develop maybe the Fanatic and the Manta Rider. You have to be a little bit scared of AoE.
The Manta Rider's still nice because the 2/2 survives in behind. It's just how much you think you can push onto the board. Maybe he goes for the Flash Wind instead of the Fanatic here, but I still like using the Fanatic instead.
Oh, he's looking at face. Oh no, he's gonna triple collect. Okay.
Oh, very nice. And plays the Fanatic in front, so that leads me to think it'll be Windstorm Charger in behind. Oh, goes for the Manta Rider instead. Very interesting, because I think the Charger possibly would have been a little better. I guess it just dies too easily to the Axe Grinder, so...
If if S doesn't find Ground Shaker or Firestorm here, he's in a really bad spot. But Firestorm would be amazing. Okay, there's a Ground Shaker.
Ground Shaker also very good. Clears off the one remaining life of the big Mace Man on the side there and puts another big creature right in front of the orb. Lou down to 11. Now he will have some soul drains to pick back up into the game. Kalim's trading very good as well.
Yeah, this is going to allow Lou to kill off both of those aggressive creatures, and as of Dawn's only going to be left with a Horsemaster. Lou can develop a Charger on top of having that 2/2 remain.
And the Colossus actually gets down to 6 here. With both of the creatures being gone, is it a position where you +1 in Colossus? I guess you don't have quite good enough lands for it because the Manta Rider will die where the Axe Grinder currently is standing, and that will drop the Manta there, which would be a great position to Colossus dash over to the side.
Oh, and this is amazing. With that Fnatic pickup, you can now trade into the 4/3, training the Manta, scoot into the middle, then Fnatic it to collect beside the Ground Shaker, take the trade, and then the 2/2 is also threatening to double collect and contest the 3/2.
Yeah, it looks like a really nice position. It'll even pick up the extra 1 Faeria to go for a Windstorm Charger if Lou wants to in a good position. It's just, again, how much do you want to play into AoE? But having just seen the Ground Shaker come down, SF Dawn doesn't have the Faeria to Firestorm here. So this is probably Lou's best chance to get more creatures out onto the board.
Yeah, and really nicely how Lou set up his creatures. He put the Charger outside of a Bomb Slinger range. If SF Dawn had Bomb Slinger, he could +1 Slinger and trade. So really liking the positions out of Lou.
Cypher picked up is a possibility. It's just really devastating if it gets cleared efficiently to something like a Soul Drain and the Windstorm Charger killing it off.
With the Flame Burst in hand, you almost got to be thinking, can I just play this for burn? Can I play the Grimguard beside the 2/2 and 3/2 and hope that the opponent's forced to use both of those units to trade? And I think that's a gamble I might actually prefer to go for as S of Dawn.
I think it's very difficult to not draw in this position as well because Cypher's Wrath looks so nice. The Flame Burst, I think, because you're saying to play for burn, I think is a great decision at this point, and that means all of your Flame Bursts are dedicated to the orb. You cannot use them for creatures. You have to have as much burn as possible. But just having the Grimguard available, having the Cypher's Wrath's probably going to line up really nice. It's something that's definitely a possibility.
I mean, I think I would be favoring +1 Faeria just because even if you find the cards, you have to have the Faeria to afford it all, and I think you need to +1 in order to do that.
And that is what he goes for. Horsemaster, I don't think moves, but maybe he'll step down a space. It just, you want to ensure that it collects next turn. Wind Soldier pickup is the same as using one of your creatures here to clear the Grimguard.
Ooh. Okay,
Mace Man
so
doesn't do it either.
if Lou double trades into this, he goes down to 7 life. He can Wind Soldier the 3/2. So it's a matter of, can S of Dawn find all 3 Flame Burst, or eventually find Cypher's targets or Ground Shaker to set up a double Flame Burst lethal?
This is going to be very close. And Lou going for the draw there, probably looking for a Choking Sands just because it would have really almost won him the game in that single card, just because of the board state, but not developing the lands up the left side for the Windstorm Charger, so really punished for the draws there.
Even Soul Drain would have looked really nice, because you could Soul Drain the 3/2, heal back up to 9 instead of having to use that Wind Soldier, or alternatively, Soul Drain the Grimguard, use the Fnatic, and then well, okay, it's the same scenario. It's just the 2/2 trades into the 3/2 afterwards.
Yeah, the Soul Drain on the Grimguard would have been better because you would have dodged a combat trigger of taking 2 extra damage.
Yes.
Instead, it still clears exactly the same way. It's just that extra 2 damage would have been avoided with something like a Soul Drain coming out. I think you still have to go for the Wind Soldier here, and Lou does. It's just, it is a ticking clock right now, as it is playing against a hard red burn.
Yeah, and Lou's already played 2 trainings, and he's played at least 1 Flash Win, or was it 2 Flash Wins? So the amount of events that Lou's going to have available to the Charger is very limited.
Yeah, I believe it was 1 Flash Wind and 2 Fanatics so far. Underground Brigand seems very greedy to me because the Charger, if Lou found a movement trick there, was so huge.
Whoa! Blue went for draw instead of land to block with the Colossus dashing.
Or even just the Mace Man in that position would have been fine to block. But yeah, going for the draw again, looking for something like maybe another Wind Soldier, Flash Wind would have been actually better than the Fanatic here. It's still going to have to be Colossus, but 2 damage coming down. If SF Dawn is able to find a Gift of Steel off the top here, no, can't find it. It still has to be land developed and probably Axe Grinder in behind.
I mean, I guess Lou's hoping to find Soul Drains to sort of redeem that value, but by letting the Brigand hit face, it not only is it 2 Faeria for SF Dawn, but there's just a chance of lethal happening there.
It doesn't really matter of Axe Grinder or Cypher coming down here. Both have 5 attack, both die to the Colossus, but you might as well save Cypher for later on. Shaitan Demon is not what Lou wants to see. In this type of situation, you just cannot play that card. Does pick up a Soul Drain, so that's going to be a little better.
It means he's not dead to Flameburst Cyphers, which we can see SF Dawn has half of that package.
And it doesn't matter which creature he Soul Drains here because he has to clear both. Windstorm Charger is going to have to come back and clear off the Brigand, and then the Colossus is going to clear off the Axe Grinder here. I would guess that you probably afterwards play the Fanatic to move the Charger onto a mountain, but I'm not sure if that's necessary or if you should just play a second Charger.
I actually think a bit of a blunder there from Lou. You could have just used the Fanatic with the Soul Drain on top of that to have the Charger kill the Demon, or kill the Axe Grinder, sorry. And then your Colossus gets to hit into the 2-attack Brigand. That way you end up with a 7-5 instead of having 2 units weak to Firestorm. In fact, having to invest into another creature. Double Firestorm. If he finds Ground Shaker, all he needs is the Faeria to play it for lethal.
Or a Cypher's Wrath here will do it as well. Every single one of Lou's creatures is a target. Another Axe Grinder picked up will not quite be good enough, but is playing Cypher and Axe Grinder good enough here, or are you just saving Faeria for the Flame Bursts?
Oh, that's got to be so tempting to play Axe Grinder and Cypher, because you're right, there is the chance of lethal there. In fact, can you... No, it's 8 Faeria.
Yeah.
You could even consider just Axe Grinder and then Flame Burst 2 creatures, but that's got to be wrong in this situation.
I think those Flame Bursts have Orb written right across them. It is deal 3 damage to the Orb in this type of a situation, but you only need 1 more damage. It's got to be looking for the Ground Shaker, looking for the Cypher's Wrath. And it is so tight. And SF Dawn has so much time as well. We haven't really talked about that. Lou is in a position where all of his creatures have been so defensive. Even the Colossus at this stage is 3 turns away. Now will be 2 turns away unless he finds something like a Flash Wind, because all the Fanatics are gone. All of the movement for Lou is gone. So it is so much time for SF Dawn to just draw more cards and find the lethal that he needs.
Yeah, and even just going off that, SF Dawn, by not playing anything, if Lou drew into a Soul Drain, he would actually have a real line of, do I Soul Drain my own creature so that I stay alive? The more Faeria SF Dawn has, the more opportunity for lethal there is.
And I mean, this is a position where Lou might be considering, do I play maybe a Manta Rider aggressive and try to get anything in, or do I need to continue to draw to find those Soul Drains?
Oh, man. And what if SF Dawn's running multiple Grimguards, too? Like, if SF Dawn finds just more Grimguards, and Lou doesn't have the choking for it, even those will represent lethal.
Yeah, very close right now. I think just close in terms of SF Dawn close to lethal, more than Lou close to stabilizing, just because I think there's only 1 Soul Drain left at this stage. So even using that, your max potential life is 9, which is 3 Flame Bursts.
Yeah, Lou wants to play on Firestorms, or play on Garridan.
And there it is.
There's lethal! SF Dawn with the red deck is going to take the victory with Ground Shaker, Flame Burst, face.
and the emote coming out, the well played from both players, a really fantastic game in execution by SF Dawn, just racing to try to end the game as fast as possible. He saw an opening to go for more of a burn style, and it pays off in the end. A big victory there, taking down Lou, and a hugely successful run for SF Dawn in the monthly cup.
Yeah, that game was phenomenal. Just seeing it go to all 5 games and watching those players back to back have to figure out the answers and having the chance of lethal. You know, we saw that hyped game where Sweetie against SF Dawn. If Sweetie found the card, found Soul Drain, if SF Dawn found the card for lethal. And yeah, just so awesome to see those games.
Absolutely spectacular. I'm sure with a lot of opinions on that series. Aquablad, how did you find that? A spectacular grand finals, in my opinion.
It was awesome. It was excellent. It was very back and forth. We saw players whiff on draws, players succeed on draws. It was incredible. And I think my favorite match of that entire series was the yellow tempo from Lou versus the blue-green ramp. Because one decision changed everything.
Yeah.
Do you go for the Sky Whale to close the game out early, or do you play patiently and play the Tree of Life, which gives you probably a larger success rate long term, right? And
I really think the biggest part of that is that the Sky Whale reset where the demon was.
Yes.
And then there was just no safe spot for even though the tree was going to come down and still have the same impact as what it would have on the turn before or the setup before, it was so much more protected where it could have been.
I liked, when I was thinking about the 2 lines, I was thinking, right, if you go for the Sky Whale play, you can finish the game in 2 turns, you can win the tournament, chill out, and that's the end of the series. Because, you know, this has been a long day. If you go for the slower line, the game is going to go on for a little longer, and there's potential comeback. You know, he's seen training, flash wins, all these sorts of cards. But it wasn't until the last Nightmare came down did I realize that the whale was the worst decision because, like you said, making the positioning of the Tree of Life worse because of where the demon landed. Now, you could think, oh, but the demon's at the end of the board, it's going to kill him in the long term. But there was no long term at that point. You know, that was a very short-term play, and it did conclude the game much faster for Lou in that matchup. But overall, the series was excellent. I really enjoyed it. The last game was very interesting as well. There's a few plays which, especially what Cappuccino pointed out, not moving the 7/7 in front of the Brigand. That was wow, Lou just tore his shirt off at that point. I don't care. You know, if you have it, you have it. Like, I just thought, wow, that was very brave of him.
Yeah.
But I think overall both players played very well. I know Lou probably really wanted that. Like I said, he's been such a staple in our community, the competitive side, the streaming side, the YouTube side, and you know, that validation that I've won a monthly cup. You know, I am one of the top contenders in this game, and we know he's a top contender. But sometimes you just want your name up there, don't you?
I mean, it's hard enough qualifying for a monthly cup, so
Exactly.
to have multiple qualifications over the course of the monthly cups. Looking at it here, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's 9 monthly cups for Lou out of 14. Like that's an insane record. But then to be able to convert that into a win, I mean, and then into a finals appearance, even better. But then into winning is that next step. That's what you're really wanting. Nobody wants to go, oh, I qualified for the monthly cup, good enough. You want to win in that situation. So I think kind of the way I would put it for the finals there, I think the players played beautifully in their wins, and then they still played beautifully in their losses. And that's exactly what we want to see in the grand finals.
Yeah, we had fantastic players competing, a great top 4, but a great tournament overall. One of the fastest tournaments we've had, I believe, just going up to 7 hours now. But we did have a lot of 3-0s, like in the start of the tournament. We had 2 3-0s back to back. That's quite rare, but overall,
I think the grand finals there was only like the 7th 3-2 of the day or something like that when I was counting it out earlier.
Yeah, so excellent tournament. Thank you very much to both casters, Cappuccino and Scorch. Any shout-outs for you guys, Scorch?
Yeah, I'm back at it streaming. You can find me on Metagaming TV, but I always post the stream for that when I go live in the Faeria Discord. But yeah, it's nice to be back to streaming and back to the monthly cup now.
Cappuccino?
Yeah, I stream over at Twitch. It's Cappuccino, and I also have a YouTube. It's Cappuccino as well, and you can check me out there. I stream hit and miss, sometimes regularly, sometimes not regularly. So.
Always
when I'm
doing
live,
fun
it's
stuff
live
on
for,
his stream.
Yeah, when I'm live for a long time usually.
Awesome.
You never know when you're going to catch a 24-hour stream.
Oh, yeah. Streaming for a little bit, or streaming for a short stream for today. 24 hours later, Cappuccino's still there. Still playing. Still going at it. You can, if you guys don't know me yet, I'm Aquablad. You can find me at twitch.tv/Aquablad from Monday to Thursday. You can also find my YouTube content on the official Faeria YouTube channel, youtube.com/Faeria team. And there's all sorts of stuff going up on there, from matches, deck doctors, deck pilots, and stuff like that. We're going to actually leave the stream up for a bit so you guys can get your eggs to make sure you can get those prizes. So the stream will remain on after this broadcast ends, so stay in the chat if you want to get those prizes. But I think that wraps up a very successful Oversky Monthly Cup. We had a special blend of old and new. We had some new decks like the blue-green ramp. We had some old decks like yellow tempo and red combat, using some of the new tools within Oversky. Perhaps next month, we'll have a completely different meta as things change and counters are discovered by the players. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and we will see you next time. Take care, guys.
Discover the Adventure Pouch Oversky, featuring a first-of-its-kind co-op campaign. Team up with either friends or powerful Faeria characters and discover a ton of new content, including more than 30 new cards. Join now to experience the Emperor's daily challenges and reap exclusive rewards. Explore the Oversky and reap the rewards today.